Welcome to Steve 87th, Puget Sound and Pacific Railroad.
Hi everyone, this is Steve 87th PSAP Railroad, or Puget Sound and Pacific. This is my channel, and I just wanted to invite you guys to come along and watch as I build my railroad, build up some kits, do some kit bashing, and running trains like the one behind me. So if this is what you guys like to watch, stick around for a while and see if you like the channel.
Hey, Steve 87th here, continuing on with our series on building the conveyor belt system that I have. So today we're going to start the actual construction. Now that we've got pieces cut, we know what we're doing and all that kind of stuff. It's time to start constructing this thing, which was actually a pretty long build. So there's going to be a few more of these videos. Don't know how many yet. So let's start off with putting parts together. All right, so we've got all kinds of pieces cut. Now it's kind of ready to start making things work. So I've sanded all these up. So remember, this one is a 1/2 inch. We have another one that is just over a 1/4 inch, which is actually the feed end, right? That's if you actually if you go back and look at the pictures, you'll see that there's actually a feed end that goes in there. And then this one, which is also a little bit less than a 1/2 inch, goes between them. So that's going to be a real quick, easy to put them together. Okay, but we have a little bit of a problem. There's a couple of things that I did on the other one that I want to keep on this one. First of all, we've got this 1/4 inch, and I have to figure out what size this is, and I'll put that in the remarks. It looks like it's about a 0.1 or so thickness on this. But the cool thing is it's a 1/4 inch. So since these are 1/4 inch, it fits right over top of it. Now, it's doing two things for me. One, it's going to cap off this end so nobody can see it. It also gives me a nice big area. And if you've ever seen machinery just like these are rounded. They're not exactly square, and machinery is always rounded. So the ones that I have on there, I've been able to put this on there and then I round off over the edges. So it looks like it's real machinery. And there's a couple of ways to do this. I found one of the easiest ways to do it. You could do it with the chopper. It will cut that way, but it may not necessarily be straight. I have actually been coming up, when I did the first one, I just glued these on and then took a knife and cut the other end after the glue setup, and everything was really good. It was fine to go. So I think I may go ahead and do that process again. It's just real quick. This time I'm actually going to use the thinner glue. The reason is this glue actually sets up really quick. And just like if you used MEK or something like this is actually a glue that penetrates in and melts the plastic around it. So it does really nice. Okay. Now there's two things that I need to do on the motor housing side of this. I've got to put this one up, and then I also did make a how do you want to call that, a base for it to sit on. So this will actually sit up a little bit higher, which again, in a motor casing, that's sort of what you want. So just gonna put these real close to one another so I can do a couple of cuts at once and not have to worry about it. Slop the glue on, just like that. Get them real close. You're gonna sand down a bunch of that end anyway, file it down, however you want to call it. Leave enough width for a knife blade to get in there, right? So these are my stand-ups. They should be. Yes, those are the stand-ups. Just want to make sure that they're doing them the right way. These also have an end. So they're at the other end. They don't get a bottom. They just get the end. So we'll just put an end on these. This is what happens when you do mass production. You can do a lot of things at once here. And bottle of glue is getting empty here. Luckily, I have another one of these. I really like this Tamiya glue. It's seems to work really, really well for the things that I do with it, especially when I'm working with the styrene. It glues very, very quickly. And it's nice and thin, so it just flows right into those gaps. And the last one, put some on there. Now this is one of those ways that I cheat measuring, because to be perfectly honest, like Vinny says, you do always want to measure everything. You want to measure it twice and all that, make sure that you're getting the right size and all. But there's some things that it's just easy not to worry about measuring. And then you get it done a whole lot faster. All right, so there you go. You got 4 of these all hanging off there. They're good to go. They're not going anyplace. You're gonna sand out, you're gonna round off corners anyway. Take the knife. Actually, use the chisel. It'll be a little bit easier. And again, this doesn't have to be the same thickness that I'm using. You can use a thinner plastic if you want. It depends upon how you want to get your motors done. And again, I've been around motors long enough. I've seen enough of them with my time in the Navy and other places that I've worked. And there's no motors that are actually in square cases. They're all in rounded cases. Part of that's because it's cheaper to put them in a rounded case. Sometimes the other part is that most of the housings on motors are cast. So it's much easier to make a rounded cast than it is a square cast. I've done lots of things in manufacturing too, so I know how some of those things work. So I'm going to go ahead and make these up. I'll glue these all together. And like I said, the other part that we're going to do is on 2 of these, just 2 of them, because they'll be the main ones, we're actually going to glue a bottom on it. It just sets it up a little bit higher than the other ones. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just trying to remember if I put that on top of it too, and it went down. I think I actually did that. Yeah, I'll have to go look and check the way that I did it, but that's basically what we're gonna do. We'll put a bottom underneath wherever it is that I gotta put a bottom on. So let me go check that out. I'll come back and I'll show you what I did with it. Okay, so I checked. It's only underneath the one side where the motor housing is. And so we're gonna come back over and we're gonna round off those edges. But first I'm gonna go ahead and glue everything together, and then I'll come back and do the rounding later. Just want to make sure that this side's nice and square. Now, with this, it doesn't really matter. I think I turned it wrong again. All right, I gotta go check one more time on how I'm gonna put this up. Okay, important fact. When we put the conveyor together, the thin side is going to go vertical. So in other words, you're gonna have your height is actually going to be the high side, and I'll show you in a minute. However, when you build these, you actually want to put it on its side. That's one of the other reasons why I put this up there. This way, it gives that motor a little bit of extra girth to it. Again, motor housings, where all the spindles are, where all the mechanics are, those are usually beefier areas. So you just want to make them look beefier. And then that's why you put the transition in here, which goes the same way, and you'll all glue that in together. So you do want to use some putty on some of this stuff, and I'll show you where we're going to use some of the putty here in a few minutes, but this is going to be your basic setup, and then the other side, the other end will actually just be like that with those corners rounded off of it too. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those together. I don't think it, well, just so that you guys know. So we get the motor housing with the plate underneath it. Okay, so remember that's the motor housing. You're going to take one of the tubes that we cut, which is about a 1/2 inch tall. We're going to glue that to the other end. Now, you've got to understand how this is working as to why we did this. So your product, this is why it's nice to have the glass, because if you have the other one, you're going to ruin that board and it's kind of hard to put it together. There's no real clamping here because it's the styrene, so the styrene really works well with it. So motor, right, is turning all of all the baffles that are in here. It's turning it around in that way, right? So there's this big wheel that's in there that's got the baffles or the chain or however you're going to drive it back in there. It's got gearing sections and things like that to make sure that it all works. Now, the way that this does this, which is really kind of cool, since if you look at it, the flaps are going to be kind of open like this. So considering that each one of these is a flap, and then this would be the chain that goes in there. So what's neat is you have this open box that sits over top of the chain, and then the grain just comes in. And as the belt moves across it, it'll go through the top layer, which is actually the return. And then the bottom layer will pick it up because it actually has a scoop to go on it. So that's what's kind of neat about it. And that's actually the same principle it works when it falls out the bottom. Literally, it does just fall out the bottom because as the chain, again, the chain is scraping the material across. If you have this open, right, if there's no gate there, it just drops it in there because that's what gravity does. It's just going to drop it there. Okay, so we put that on there, and then we put on a little housing in the front. This is one of the 1/4 inch pieces. That will just attach right on there. And remember, this one you turn the 90 degrees from that one. So now you've got a big section, a vertical section, and a horizontal section. And that horizontal section will hook up to this horizontal section. That'll be your drive motor side. Okay. And then the other end will be your non-drive motor side. It's just that simple. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put these together and stack them all up and then do some sanding and all that, and I'll show you what we've got. Okay, had to turn the fan on a little bit. Air's a little stale in here right now. So I've already done the other ones, but I'll just show you guys real quick. It depends upon how you want to round these. It's real simple. I use the jeweler's file method. You just get in here, come in at like a 45-degree angle or so, and just work it down. There's a couple of things that this does. Like I said, one, it gives you that rounded effect that most engine houses or motor houses or anything that's machinery normally has. It's again, it's normally not square. It's normally rounded. It makes it easier. The other thing that it does, because these are two separate pieces, it gives you a nice little cut line around them to show some separation. So if you detail that, you can do a whole lot better. There's a lot of other things you can do to this to make it even more detailed out if you want to. You could put a plate on the side, put it in the shape of a diamond instead of a square. You can put a rod all the way through it to show that there's a rod sticking through it, but I just decided to do something else, and it looks like it didn't turn out bad on the other one. It'll look pretty good when you paint it. And again, remember, this is a big piece, but it's really background decor for a lot of the things that's going on. So you can see it doesn't take that long to go through this. If you have a better file or if you use the sanding sticks, whatever, it doesn't matter what you use. You just want to take it so that that end is softened. Okay. Now I told you there is some putty work that needs to be done here. I am actually using right now I experiment with the putties because I never know exactly what one I want to use. But I have to find it first. So let me stop and I'll go find my putty. So I'm using this Vallejo plastic putty. I also have the testers putty. I know a lot of other people like squadron putty and all that. It's all up to you. But this is what's neat about this particular putty for this particular application that I'm doing. It's got a nice little squeeze bottle, just like the paints do. So you want to come in here. You just want to get a little bit of dab in there to show that there's a transition, right? You just want to get that. And the good thing is this will come out in a controlled fashion, hopefully. And of course, the putty is stuck right now. Yeah. Okay, so that'll be on a blooper reel. Let me clean this up and we'll get back to doing what I was doing. All right, now that we're cleaned up. So anyway, yeah, it was solid. So it is a putty. So of course it dried because it got exposed to the air for a while. You just want to come in here, put a little bead. Some of the other putties, it's a little bit harder to do the bead. This one is still being a bit of a pain. There we go. Now it's coming out. And so it's just like, you know, putting a bead of caulk on something. Just want to do slightly so that it fits in, because remember we do have a big transition here between open and closed. We sort of did that on purpose. Yeah, I know it's a drill bit, but gotta get the gunk out somehow. There we go. Good and free flowing. Just like everything else, right? We want to make our glue, we want to make our putty, we want to make it all so that it's flowing right. Okay. Good thing about putty, put a little bit too much of it on, just scrape it off later. Okay, except for this next part that I got to do. So we're going to do that. And that's why I'm trying to dry this up right now. Just put that on there like that. And again, we'll come back and we'll sand that a little bit. But now there's a couple of ways. Understand that there would be a wheel in here, right? So a wheel has an axle. Axle has bearings, has a shaft, blah, 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 blah. So remembering where you're at on what you're doing. This is where the motor is, right? So we're gonna attach a motor to one end, and we're gonna attach the wheel to the other end. Now it's real important where you put your little dot. All right, so I'm just gonna put a tiny little dot right here. It's kind of like topping off an ice cream cone. All right, there we go. I don't even know if you guys can see that. Tiny, tiny little droplet there. You can see it there. You can see it just right there, just a little tiny droplet. And that's where it's going to go. Because on the other side is going to be the motor. So then you take this, about the same place, middle, you know, close enough. Nobody's really going to see it. Just put a little dop in there, flip it over, do the same thing on the other side. It's not a big detail. It's really hard to see. But when you paint it, it'll come out neat. So again, just a little tiny dab. Again, like I said, the other way that you can do this, you can drill this, put a rod through both sides. If you really wanted to detail it, you would cut a square plate, put the plate over there at an angle. We're actually going to do both sides of this since we don't know what side we're going to put the motor on yet. Yes, the motor goes on a specific side. Okay. All right. So, ooh, see, Again, that's why you don't want it to come all out at once. I guess this part is going to be fun with putty. Let's put a little dab there. Good to go. All right. That putty is going to dry. It'll be nice and hard, be sandable. So once we get all that, we'll sand it all up and we'll make it work. Okay. So our next thing is to figure out where these are going to go. This one, the 12-inch long one, which goes, no, this one actually goes across, so it only has a dump at the end of it. So remember what I said, is the way that these work, because it's a bucket drop, all I have to do, since this is the area where it disengages from, right? That's where you know it disengages from. This last section here then would be where everything drops out of it. So we just put in a drop section there, and the feed will go in, and then you're feeding it from the other side over here. So you got your feed, drags on down, feed drops in there, comes across, gets the other end, drops off. Then it'll go in here, and then this one will have to have a drop for the first one. It'll actually drop off into the second one, but we don't have to put a gate there, and the first one will have a gate on it. So we just have to attach a gate. So we just have to find out where this all goes. So I'm going to go mark this up, and I'll be back, and we'll start adding drop gates.
All right, now we've built up some motors and some motor kits and return sections. So our next video, we're going to start putting the things together and start adding the walkways. Again, I'm trying to keep these short enough so that they don't go too long and that I can load them up easier. And like I said, they'll be all in one series. So thanks for watching. Next video will be out shortly after this one. Trying to get them out as quick as I can, as well as finish off my build. So again, thanks for watching. If you guys like this, subscribe, tell other people, you know, whatever you want to do. This is Steve 87 saying so long.